The next path tool is a more straightforward path, and here on this one I'm going to go ahead and use one of the pen tools. Again, it really doesn't matter whether I just use one of the shapes or the pen tool, but in this case I'm going to use the pen tool. And once again, it's very important that we go up here to our options bar and we look at these different ways that the path tools behave. And the first one was the vector shape layer. The second one is what we call a straightforward path. Okay. Also, while we're up here, notice here are the pen tools, those shape layer, those shape tools that we talked about, and the custom shape tool, which we'll come back to a little bit later on. But this is very important. I'm going to switch to the straightforward path tool here, and I will proceed with creating a path. Okay, so I'm going to just like I would in Illustrator, creating a path and closing it. And when we do that, when we create a path, notice once again, let's look. First off, you don't see, like with the vector shape layer, we don't see any more new layers or anything indicating that we've done something in our layers palette. But we do have what's called a work path that has just popped up in the Paths dialog box. So anytime we create a shape with the standard path tools, or a standard path with any of the pen tools or path tools, it shows up as a work path. Okay? When we have a work path, we then generally, there's a little procedure, work path, save the path, and then we'll talk a little bit later on about creating a clipping path, which is how we can hide the white box of an image like the duck when we take the image outside of Photoshop into something like Illustrator or InDesign. But at this point we have a work path. The first thing we want to do is save the path. So we can look at it here, and we can go to our little options bar, and the first thing you see is save the path. So we'll go ahead and say save. It's automatically called path 1. You can only have one, you can have more than one path, but you can only have one activated or selected at a time. So I'll just simply say OK, and notice this has now automatically changed and is called path 1. This is permanently a part of our file. And when it's not selected, you don't see it. When it's selected, there it is. And once again, with the white arrow, I can come here and click on it, and I can edit it and manipulate it, its handlebars, its individual anchor points, and that information is recorded and saved in the Paths dialog box. And again, when I deselect it or it's not picked in the paths, there you see it disappears. Click on it, comes back, white arrow, I can then edit it. And again, what is, so why do we need this thing if you don't really see it? Well, once again, it is, we'll talk about in a little while, that it can be saved as a clipping path. But more often, what paths are about is when we make a path, we are thinking ahead, and we are going to want to convert this into a selection. Any path can be converted temporarily into a selection. It'll still remain as a path that can be edited over and over continuously. But watch, drag it down to the third little icon here, the third little picture, and look what just happened. It turned into a selection. Okay? It's still there as a path, There it is. And we can convert it into a selection. Now, why is that a big deal? Well, think about a situation. I think everybody who's messed with Photoshop and the path tools, the selection tools, knows that these are very temporary and these are very difficult to control. I mean, you can sit here, and create a selection, and you can try to edit it and add to it, or you could sit here and try and take away from it, and one little glitch or one little thing on the mouse, and boop, it's gone. Okay? Well, the path tools, as we've talked about, the path is always here. Once you create it and save it, it never goes away. And so not only are we, I think everybody's familiar with, how complicated it can be and difficult to really create a fine path around, a fine selection around something. Well, we have the control and the power of doing that with the path tools, which we've learned, I think, from Illustrator, that we can do amazing kinds of subtle, little detailed kinds of things. And if we're trying to select around a complicated object, that might take a long time. And you might want to tweak it and play with it and keep trying to fine-tune it. And if it was just a selection, once you've deselected it, it's gone. But the path is here, and we can convert it into a selection as often as we want and keep tweaking it and playing with it, and then know that it will be here even when we have gotten tired, come back to it tomorrow, and get it to just our liking before we select and then do whatever it is that we want to do with that selection in our file. Okay.